Another video from HasLab. Okay, we're now moving on to our second spreadsheet exam paper. So you need to make sure that you download the folder from the Google Drive. So you should load the question paper, and let's start by opening the question paper and seeing what it says. Okay, so here the first question is, let's read the scenario first, make sure that we're clear about what needs to be done. So here it says you are going to prepare a spreadsheet for hot prop real estate. They will use a spreadsheet to calculate the earnings from each property when it is sold. Display all currency values in dollars with 2 decimal places. Now, we can see here that they've emphasized this, which means they probably won't tell us to set the currency or the format the cells to currency. It's told us 2 decimal places, so we need to make sure that we do this. Okay. Now, we'll start from question 28. So using a suitable software package, load the file j1331prop.csv. So we go back to the folder over here and we load the file. So this is the file over here. Make sure once again that it is the CSV file. As I've mentioned before, often the examiners will give you 2 files with the same name, so we need to make sure that we load the right one. So here, Microsoft Excel, comma, separated variable CSV file. So this is the one they want us to work on. So we double click, and the first thing we do, ladies and gents, remember, is we need always, whenever we open a CSV file to work on, we need to make sure that we go to File and save it as an Excel workbook. The examiners won't always say, but we should know this straight away. So this is a generic file type. It means that if we save it as a CSV file, it probably won't save the formatting we do. It won't save the merges, and at the same time, it won't save the formula. So you're going to lose pretty much 80% of the marks. So this is really, really important. So we go to Excel workbook, and we then save it into. I'm just going to give it a different name here, just in case. I'm just going to call it Haseen on here. Okay, so click Save. And then I'm going to double check this file, save as again, because it's really important. We need to make sure we double check. Yes, Excel workbook. Okay, now we are good to go. Okay, so next question. Insert a new row above row 1. So the way that we insert a new row, so guys, just make sure that you've got the exam paper in front of you, or obviously half the screen, so make sure that you can see the exam paper and the video, because I won't be going to and forth. Okay, so question 29, insert a new row above row 1. So here is row 1. The way that we insert a new row is we select the row number, then we right mouse click, and then click insert. So now we can see here that we've inserted a new row. Question 30, in cell A1, enter the text Bravo Office. So we need to make sure that we type it exactly the same way as the examiners have written it. So Bravo with capital B, and then Office with a capital O. Okay, question 31. Merge cells A1 to H1 so they become a single cell. So we highlight A1 to H1 and make sure that they're suitable, that they become one cell. So here we want to select Merge and Center, which is good. It then says format the text in this cell so that it is white, 18 points, sans serif font. So they wanted the font color to be white. They want it to be sized 18. And once again, they want it to be a sans serif font. So sans means without. Okay, so it means without the curls on the end, awal harakat. So in here we can see Arial doesn't have the curls on the end. Okay. Next part, format this cell so that it is right aligned and has a black background color. Okay, so what we need to do is let's change the background color first, and it should be right aligned. So if I go to the alignment over here, right mouse click, it is now right aligned. Okay, so that is question 31. We then move on to question 32. On the left in the header, add your name, center number, candidate number. So I need to go to insert, header and footer. It says on the right in the header, so this is the right of my page. Sorry, on the left of the header, sorry. Add your name, so Mr. Haseen, my center number is QA0 let's say 88, and my center number is 9999. Okay, so that's in. Then it says, question 32, on the right in the header, add the text last revision on, followed by an automated date and time. Now, so this is the right. Okay, so we need to add last revision. So make sure revision. And it then says on. Okay, followed by the date and time. So here, if I click on current date in here, and space current time, it will automatically insert today's date and today's time. Okay, so this is how it works basically. Okay, so I think we've finished there. Question 33. It says properties 1053 to 1056 are those advertised in the webpage properties.html. For each property, enter the distance from the center of Bravo into the distance column of the spreadsheet. Now, as we're only working on the spreadsheet task, I've also included the files in the folder. So if I open the folder over here, we can see that this is the original file, okay, which is HTML file, so it's a web page. So if I click in here, what I've got to try and do is I'm going to use Edge. Yeah, I'll use Edge to open this. So click OK. Okay, so this is the information that's displayed in the browser. Now, we've got to be clear about what we're looking for in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the spreadsheet and I'm going to try and find the values in here. So in here it says 1053 to 1056. Now, they want us to enter some values in here, so we can see that these are obviously missing. And if we go in here, we can see that the column heading is distance. So let's just make sure that we understand the spreadsheet before we move on. So here we have a property number, here we have the price of a property, income, distance, viewing cost, times viewed, advertising cost. In fact, let's actually change the view back to normal view so that we can see everything a little bit more clearly. So we have the viewing cost and we have the profit. Now in here, the information isn't available for the distance for these four properties. Now they've given us a clue, so they've said that we should find the information in here somewhere in this web page. So if we look at here, let's have a little read to make sure that we're clear. Hot properties this week only, and down here we can find some information. So here we have a small house, here we have a garage business, here we have a small farm, and here we have vegetable shops. So we can see in here, this is Bravo City Centre. Now I'm starting to see some kilometers. I'm also starting to see some prices in here. So I'm getting a little bit more information. Okay, I think now I can do this, or I should be able to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to minimize this. Now let's have a look. So in here we have a property price of 20,000. Can I see a property price in here of 20,000? Yes, I can. Is there another one that's 20,000? No, there isn't. That's the only one. So here we have 20,000. Here we have 16,000. Here we have 22,000. And this last one, if I'm guessing correctly, should be 14,000, which it is. Okay, so we know that the values are referring to these values down here. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I should be able to work out the distance. So the cost of the 20,000 is in Bravo Center, which must mean that the value here must be 0. The second property, 16,000, is 16 kilometers away from Bravo. 16,000, let's just go about, what was that? 16,000, 16 kilometers, so this should be 16. The 22,000 property is 20 kilometers. And the 14,000 property is 4 kilometers away from Bravo. Okay, so it won't always be obvious, but you have to know what you're looking at. The examiners expect you to be able to maybe look for patterns. Okay, so now we have these values, and we'll make sure that we go to File, save our spreadsheet as we go along. So just save it. Now, moving on to question 34. In cell C3, so let's have a look at C3 first, so income. Enter a formula to display the viewing cost if a local taxi is used. If the distance to the, question 34, in cell C3, enter a formula to calculate the income the property company will make when the property is sold. This is $100 plus 2.5% of the price of the property. So what we need to do first is let's work out 2.5% of the price of the property first. So it's going to be this multiplied by 2.5%. I want to get this value, whatever, so 2.5% of this, and add 100 to this value. Okay, so if I push enter, it should give me this value here. Just double check, make sure that it's definitely this value it's using, and yes it is. Okay, so far we are good. Okay, so we can replicate the formula, and I think that's fine. Now it says this is $100, so in here it looks like we're going to have to format this at some point. Okay, in fact we're going to have to format both of these. Anything, just be aware of this, because later on you may be asked to format to dollars, and we said at the beginning of the exam paper it was dollars, 2 decimal places. Okay, moving on to question 35. In cell E3, this is E3, enter a formula to display the viewing cost if a local taxi is used. If the distance to the property, if the distance, so this here, to the property is less than 5 kilometers, the cost is $2. 5 kilometers or more, and less than 15, then 15 kilometers, the cost is $5. 15 kilometers or more, okay, the cost will be $10. Now, what I like to do, I always like to do my nested if statements with the highest number. So, I do equals if, open bracket. So if this value here is 15 kilometers or more, that means greater than or equal to 15. If it's true, it should be $10. Okay, if it's false, I need to do my second if statement. Now, this is where I would strongly advise the students to use the Haseen step method. Okay, so the presentation is on Google Drive. If you're not too sure about this, then please come and see me at any point. Okay, so if it's not true, we then go to the second number. So the value, therefore, can't be either 15 or higher than, so it must be. So we then check if the value is then greater than, does it say greater than 5? So it says 5 kilometers or more. It must be greater than or equal to 5. If it's true, then it should be $5. If it's not true, then we know it must be $2, because that must mean that it must be less than 5. Okay, so we then close our if statement, push enter, and we double check our value. So if they don't travel, should the cost be $2? Yes, it should be. Should this be $10? Yes, it should be. Should this be 2? Yes, I think we are good. Okay, so replicate the formula. Now we've worked out all the viewing costs. Okay, moving on to question 36. In cell H3, enter a formula to calculate the profit from the sale. This will be calculated by taking from the income both the viewing cost multiplied by the number of times viewed and the advertising cost. Now, in here, okay, let's have a look at what they've mentioned in the exam. So here, you need to make sure that you read the question several times. Okay, so what we're going to do is going to go to equals, and we want to do the income minus, it said the viewing cost multiplied by the number of times the property has been viewed. Okay, minus the advertising cost. Okay, so in here, we use the brackets because we want to, it's a calculated number really. Okay, so we want to calculate it separately and minus that from the income. So we push enter and it gives us these values here. We then replicate the formula to make sure that we're happy with the formula. Now, moving on to question 37, it says apply appropriate formatting to all cells. Now, in here, when we look at the formatting, it's really referring to the dollar signs. Okay, so all currencies must be in dollars. They haven't said that specifically here because they expect you to remember that from the introduction at the beginning of the exam paper, which is over here. So value, display all currency values in dollars with 2 decimal places. So what we need to do is we need to go back into here. We then need to highlight all cells, okay, or all columns that are currencies, and we then need to format the cell. So right mouse click, format cells. In here it should be currency, and it should be currency 2 decimal places, and it should be in dollars. So if I just scroll down, so here I can just use any dollar sign really, so I can use Canadian dollars, that's fine. So click OK. Here we have dollars. Same again here, so this price and the income are also in dollars. So right mouse click, format cells once again, currency, and I changed this also to dollars as well. So here I can just use, yeah, I mean it's same dollar sign really. Click OK. That's in dollars as well. And we have the viewing cost and advertising cost as well. So just highlight them. Control, highlight this column as well. Right mouse click, format cells, currency, dollars in here. Okay, 2 decimal places, click OK. Now everything has now been set into dollars, so that's question 37 finished. Moving on to question 38, replicate the formula entered in steps 34 to 36 for all properties. We've just done that, so it's already been done. We've already replicated the formulas. Question 39, in cell H41, so if I scroll down H41 here, enter a formula to calculate the total profit if all the properties were sold. So we need to sum the value of all of these profits if they were all sold. So here we use a sum function. So we then highlight all of these values and then push enter, and it then sums all of those values up for us. Edit this formula so that it is also, sorry, question 39, okay, it also says edit this formula so that it also rounds this value to the nearest whole dollar. So what we've got to do here is we've got to use a round function. So the way we do this, this is the value, it's already generated by the sum function. So what we need to do here is we need to use a second function called the round. So round, open bracket, there are 2 arguments for the round function. The first is the number, which is the number that the sum function generates, and to the nearest whole value means to 0 decimal places. So press enter, and now it gives us to the nearest whole value. Display the contents of cell H41 so that it shows only the integer values. Now what we can also do here is, if I can make this into an integer. So int means a whole number. So it takes this whole value and makes the whole value into an integer. Okay, so, or I can format cells and I just take this to 0 decimal places. So now it generates, or it displays it as a whole integer value. So that's question 41. Now, sorry, question 40. Now moving on to question 41. It says save and print the spreadsheet showing formula. Make sure it's in landscape orientation. So what I need to do first is I need to go to page layout, orientation, choose landscape. It says the row and column headings are displayed. Now here I have to go to the print setup property. So if I go to file, then I go to print. Here if I go to page setup down here, okay, if I go to the margins or sheet, I think it is, sheet, in here I can select the row and column heading. So it will basically print, so over here, if we look at the spreadsheet at the moment, it doesn't show me the column headings, okay, A, B, C going along the top, or 1, 2, 3, 4 going down the side. If I click on show row and column headings, if I click OK, we can now see that they appear. Okay, so that's how we show the row and column headings. The printout is only 1 page wide. Now, if I go to print, it is on 1 page wide. So what they don't want is they don't want the print going off into the next page. So it doesn't say that it must be on a single page. The last thing it says, the contents of all cells are fully visible. So what we need to do is we need to go back to the spreadsheet, and we have to double click on all the cells like this, just to make sure we don't accidentally miss anything. Okay, so make sure that all the formatting has been applied, and I think yes, now we are good. Okay, and yep, okay, so here we can then file, save, and then I can choose select these once again. So this is my my print area. So I then go to file, print. It's a bit slow there. Print, and in here I'm going to select print selection. Okay, so it'll only print the selection that I want. It's just a much more efficient way of printing. Okay, so there we go. So it's 1 page wide, and it prints on two pages. So moving on to question 42, it says print the spreadsheet showing the values. Make sure the printout fits on a single portrait page. Oh, sorry, this one, question 41. Sorry, it says show the formulas. So if I just go to formulas, show formulas, and in here I then do the same thing. Apologies, I didn't read the question fully. So if I go back into here, just double click, and I basically set the same page properties the same way that I did before. So here, make sure that everything is visible. Okay, so then if I go to file, print, now we can see that all the formulas print on a single page. Why? Oh no, they don't. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to make sure, actually they do print on a single page wide, but even if they don't, I can still go to scaling, and I can say fit on 1 page or fit all columns onto 1 page. So if I go to fit all columns to 1 page, it automatically fits all the columns onto a single page for me. So it's okay if it goes down into the second page. Okay, so apologies for that, that was my mistake. Now, question 42, print the spreadsheet showing the values, make sure that the printout fits on a single portrait page and the contents of all cells are fully visible. So now we then need to take the formulas off. So we then go to view, formulas. I then need to remove the formulas, change the page layout, okay, from landscape to portrait, and then once again I double click in between each of the columns to make sure that I don't miss anything out, and I can now then I set my print area once again to make sure that I'm printing only this section. Okay, I then go to file, print, and we can see here that everything fits on a single page wide. Why? Because this property here has been set, so fit all columns onto 1 page. Okay, so that's that done. That's question 42. I will then obviously print that and make sure that I double check my prints. Now, question 43 says update the spreadsheet with the following data. So property number 1053 has been visited 3 times. So I've got to look for property number 1053, and I need to find the number of visits. So this is my times viewed, okay? Times viewed is this column here. So 1053 has been visited 3 times, so I change this value to 3. And property number 1055 has also been visited 5 times, so I press 5 on here. Then it says print the spreadsheet showing the values, make sure the printout fits on a single portrait page and the content of all cells are fully visible. I've just shown you how to do that, so you can set the print layouts again. Then moving on to question 45, your manager would like to see the effects of change in the spreadsheet model. The income from the sales of the properties was calculated in step 34. Change the formula to $150 plus 2% of the price of the properties. So question 34, if we go back, involved us working out the income here. So now what they're saying is the actual formula has changed for working out the income. So instead of being 2.5%, it now becomes 2%, plus $150 instead of 150. So if I put the formula in here, replicate the formula, we should see that this value down here, the total profit, should change, and we can see the effect of the change in here. So now it becomes $18,116. Then print the spreadsheet showing the values, make sure that the printout fits on a single page wide, single portrait page. The contents of all cells are fully visible, and save and print your evidence. Okay, so that's that's pretty much the end of the exam. So just make sure that you obviously print the exam papers. Make sure that once you've printed them, you check that you haven't missed anything. Okay, so make sure that all the formulas are clear, fully visible. Remember, if you don't print the formulas, you're likely to lose between 6 to 70% of the marks. So you need to make sure that you print everything. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you for my next video. Thank you very much.